Napon ang 2 bata at isang matanda mula sa isang sasakyan sa nangyaring vehicular collision sa isang highway sa Texas.
Naisugod sa pagamutan ng 3 para sa atensyong medikal. Mga detalye ng balita ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
At ako si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Miyerkules ng gabi.
China mariing giniit na ang Philippine Air Force sa pag-trespass ng air pass sa Huangyangdao.
Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ipinag-utos ang rasyonalisasyon ng senior high school curriculum.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida magbibitiw na sa pwesto.
Monkeypox, isang public health emergency na sa Africa.
At Google inilabas ang panibagong model ng Pixel smartphone nito. Dumepensa ang China hinggil sa ginawang dangerous maneuvers ng Philippine or People's Liberation Army Air Force sa Panatag Shoal.
Giit ng Beijing na ang Philippine Air Force o PAF ang nakialam sa inaangkin nilang teritoryo sa West Philippine Sea. Dagdag ng China, ginawa lamang ng kanilang Air Force ang nararapat ayon sa international laws. Sa isang pahayag, sinabi ni Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jiang, on August 7 and 8, Philippine military aircraft twice intruded into the adjacent airspace of Huangyangdao, which gravely infringed upon China's sovereignty and violated international law and the basic norms governing international relations. Naghain ang Department of Foreign Affairs ng formal na diplomatic protest hinggil sa insidente. Pero sinabi naman ng ahensya na bukas pa rin ito sa anumang dialogo para maresolba ang hidwaan. Sa salaysay ng Armed Forces of the Philippines, may 2 Chinese aircraft na nagpakawala ng flares sa daan ng NC-212I PAF aircraft habang nagsasagawa ito ng routine maritime patrol sa himpapawid ng Panatag.
Aprobado na ng Senado ang Senate Bill No. 2665 o ang Archipelagic Sea Lanes or ASL Act na layong palakasin ang territorial integrity at national security ng Pilipinas sa pamamagitan ng pagtatalaga ng mga sea lanes sa buong Pilipinas. Sinabi ni Senate Majority Leader Francis Tolentino ang approval ng panukalang batas ay tagumpay ng ating bansa. Giit ng senador, nakabatay ang ASL Act sa prinsipyo ng United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea o UNCLOS. Napapanahon din ang pag-aproba ng naturang panukalang batas dahil sa Maritime Zones Act na naging mahalaga dahil sa agresibong pagkilos ng China sa West Philippine Sea. Umaasa rin si Tolentino na makikinabang ang ekonomiya ng bansa sa pangangasiwa ng mga archipelagic sea lanes.
Sa harap ng Senate Committee on Environment and Natural Resources ay nangako ang kumpanyang may-ari ng MT Terra Nova na magbabayad ito sa mga naapektuhan ng oil spill. Sinabi ni Legal Counsel ng Porta Vega Ship Management na may insurance ang lumubog na barko na nasa 6 na milyong dolyar. Anya, nagpunta na rin ang kanilang legal team sa mga apektadong local government units or LGUs gaya ng Bataan at Cavite upang ipaliwanag ang protocol para sa isang survey ng oil spill. Handa rin anya silang makipag-usap sa iba pang apektadong mga residente. Batay sa datos na natanggap ng Senado ay aabot sa mahigit na 42,000 mga mangingisdang apektado ng oil spill. Ngunit bago maproseso ang bayad ng MT Terra Nova sa mga apektadong LGUs ay kailangan munang tapusin ang pagsipsip sa 1,400 na tonelada ng langis na nasa loob pa ng MT Terra Nova at pag-salvage ng naturang barko mula sa ilalim ng dagat.
When we went to Cavite and when we spoke to Bataan last week, I was with that team, and we were explaining to them that first of all there will be a checking of what LGUs were affected and how many, And then also in Cavite, we met with the governor and we explained the protocol about doing a survey of affected LGU. The challenge is how to get it out safely without causing any more.
So how
I'm not denying that there was leakage, but the 1,400 tons is still on board the ship.
Mainit na sinalubong ng mga Pilipino ang mga Olympians na sumali sa 2024 Paris Olympics. Tagaktakma ng pawis ng lahat at medyo may siksikan sa kahabaan ng mga lansangan ng Maynila at Pasay. Matyagang naghintay ang mga Pinoy sa Heroes Parade ng mga atleta at nang dumaan na nga ang float na sinasakyan ng mga Pilipino atleta na pinangunahan ni Paris Olympics double gold medalist Carlos Yulo at bronze medalists Ira Villegas at Nesty Peteso ay naghiyawan sa saya ang mga fans. Kasama rin sa Heroes Parade sina Samantha Catantan, Joanny Delgaco, Lauren Hoffman, John Cabang Tolentino, Elrina Ando, Kyla Sanchez, Jared Hatch, Hergie Bakyadan at Carlo Paalam. May mga fans na tumalon sa sobrang excitement at marami rin ang tila walang kapaguran sa pagkaway ng kanilang mga kamay o watawat ng Pilipinas para pasalamatan lamang ang mga atletang nagbigay ng best finish sa Summer Olympics Games. Hindi naman nabigo ang mga fans na nanood ng Heroes Parade dahil game na game sina Carlos at iba pang Filipino Olympians sa fan signatures. Nagsimula ang Heroes Parade ng pasado alas 4 ng hapon sa Aliw Theater sa Pasay at natapos ito sa Rizal Memorial Coliseum na mga alas 6 na ng gabi kung saan ay may isang programa na inaalay para sa mga bayaning atleta.
Ipinag-utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa Department of Education o DepEd ang rasyonalisasyon ng Senior High School o SHS curriculum. Kasunod ito ng sectoral meeting ng Kagawaran kasama ang Pangulo hinggil sa panukalang Education Cabinet Cluster. Sinabi ni Education Secretary Sonny Angara, plano ng Kagawaran na bawasan ng karaniwang 22 asignatura kada academic track. Anya, gagawing voluntaryo na lamang ang iba sa mga ito para sa mga mag-aaral. Inihayag din ng kalihim ng ang mga electives at piniling track ng mga estudyante ay dapat na nagkakatugma sa isa't isa. Sinabi pa niya na inatasan ng Pangulo ang DepEd na makipag-ugnayan sa mga industriya at tiyakin na ang mga SHS graduates ay pwedeng mag-acquire ng high-quality jobs. Buwan ng Pebrero nang iniutos ni PBBM ang integrasyon ng skills training sa K-12 curriculum.
Isang mamamayan ng South Africa ang inaresto dahil sa tangkang pagpupuslit ng iligal na droga na nagkakahalaga ng 35 milyon at 800,000 piso sa Pilipinas. Nahuli ang suspect sa isang operasyon ng mga miyembro ng NAIA Interagency Drug Interdiction Task Group. Nasamsam sa suspect ang isang transparent plastic sachet na naglalaman ng higit sa 5 kilong hinihinalang shabu. Ang mga nakumpiskang iligal na droga ay dinala na sa Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency para sa documentation and disposition procedures. Ang suspect ay sasampahan ng mga kasong paglabag sa Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 at Customs Modernization and Tariff Act.
Pinayuhan ng Phobox ang mga residente sa labas ng 4-kilometer radius na permanent danger zone ng Canlaon na maghanda sakaling tumaas ang aktibidad ng naturang bulkan. Inanunsyo ng Phobox na ang mataas na sulfur dioxide gas flux na umabot sa higit sa 7,000 tonelada ang pinakamataas mula nang magsimula ang kanilang instrumental gas monitoring sa Bulkang Canlaon. Ayon kay Phobox Director Teresito Bacolcol, ang mataas na gas flux ay maaaring dulot ng interaksyon ng tubig sa ilalim ng lupa at ng mainit na volcanic gases o pagbabago sa galaw ng magma. Pinayuhan din ni Bacolcol ang mga residente na manatiling nasa labas ng permanent danger zone upang maiwasan ang mga panganib gaya ng mga biglaang pagsabog ng bulkan, pagguho ng mga bato at landslides. Walang nilabas na forecast ang Phobox kung gaano karaming gas ang maaaring ilabas ng Bulkang Canlaon na nasa Alert Level 2 ngayon.
Susunod, Prime Minister ng Japan magre-resign na sa posisyon.
Monkeypox sa Africa idineklara na bilang public health emergency.
At Iran nanindigan sa kanilang planong pag-atake sa Israel. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik na mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart.
Why choose Supreme Pure Organic Barley? It is 100% pure organic barley straight from Australia. Certified super brands. The first alkaline-based barley in the Philippines. High pH level, 7.9 alkaline level, 68 micronutrients, non-acidic. It helps boost immune system, improves digestion, high in antioxidants, regulates blood sugar level and cholesterol. Waglang Basta Barley. Dapat alkaline-based Supreme Pure Organic Barley.
The Philippine business landscape is thriving, and at the forefront of it all is the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI. We have the distinct honor of a conversation with the president of PCCI, Consul Nina Mangio. We'll dive deep, explore exciting growth opportunities, and gain insights into the PCCI's vision for the future.
We try to enhance all the business sectors to sustain the growth of the businesses. We want our SMEs to be part of our movement.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos.
Sunday 25.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Iniimbestigahan ngayon sa Sheikh Hasina, dating Prime Minister ng Bangladesh, dahil sa pagkakasangkot nito sa isang murder case. Batay sa inisyal na ulat, binaril umano ng isang pulis si Abu Sayyid habang tumatawid ito sa kalye. May isa ring insidente na bigla na lamang umanong pinaputukan ng mga pulis ang mga nagrarally na estudyante. Bukod kay Hasina, may 6 pang matataas na opisyal ang iniimbestigahan na kasangkot sa murder case.
Nangako si President-elect Prabowo Subianto ng Indonesia na magbibigay ang gobyerno ng libreng pagkain sa mahigit 80 milyong estudyante sa bansa. Ito ay isang magastos at komplikadong inisyatibo, ngunit inaasahan itong magpapalakas sa mga underdeveloped milk industry sa Indonesia. Ayon kay Subianto, 28 bilyong dolyar ang nakalaang budget para ganap na maipatupad ang nasabing programa. Ayon sa Ministry of Agriculture ng Indonesia, ang programang ito ay mangangailangan ng higit sa 4 na milyong tonelada ng gatas. Dahil dito, sinabi ni President-elect Prabowo Subianto na kinakailangan o kakailanganin ng bansa na mag-angkat ng 1,500,000 mga baka upang mapalago ang industriya. Layo nitong pagbutihin ang nutrisyon sa bansa kung saan ang mataas na bahagi ng mga calories ay nagmumula sa grains, ngunit mababa naman ang pagkonsumo ng gatas. Sa katunayan, mahigit 21% ng mga bata na wala pang 5 taong gulang ay kulang sa tangkad o stunted ang height development sa Indonesia.
Tinanggal na ng Constitutional Court ng Thailand si Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin dahil sa pagtalaga niya sa kanyang gabinete ng isang dating abogado na nakulong.
ความเป็นรัฐมนตรีของผู้ถูกร้องที่ 1 นายกรัฐมนตรีสิ้นสุดลงเฉพาะตัวตามรัฐธรรมนูญมาตรา 170 วรรค 1 อนุ 4 เนื่องจากไม่มีความซื่อสัตย์สุจริตเป็นที่ประจักษ์ขาดคุณสมบัติตามรัฐธรรมนูญมาตรา 160 อนุ 4 และมีพฤติกรรมอันเป็นการฝ่าฝืนหรือไม่ปฏิบัติตามมาตรฐานทางจริยธรรมอย่างร้ายแรงอันมีลักษณะต้องห้ามตามรัฐธรรมนูญมาตรา 160 อนุ 5
Si Sereta ang ika-4 na time premier sa loob ng 16 na taon na tinanggal ng korte. Dahil po dito, kailangan na muli ng parlamento ng bansa na pumili ng bagong prime minister. Pansamantalang gaganapin ni Deputy Premier Pumtam Wichayachay ang pwesto bilang acting prime minister. Kailangang magdesisyon ang mga partido ng Thailand kung sino ang kanilang ihahain at iboboto bilang susunod na premier batay sa listahan ng mga kandidatong isinumite bago ang halalan noong 2023. Upang maging prime minister, kailangan makuha ng isang kandidato ang suporta ng higit sa kalahati ng mga boto ng mga mambabatas o 247 boto sa kabuuan.
Inanunsyo ni Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida ang kanyang intensyon na magbitiw sa kanyang pwesto.
自民党が変わることを示す最も分かりやすい最初の一歩は私が身を引くことであります。私は来たる総裁選には出馬いたしません。総裁選を通じて選ばれた新たなリーダーを一兵卒として支えていくことに徹してまいります。
Inaasahang bababa si Kishida bilang Prime Minister at pinuno ng Liberal Democratic Party pag may nahalal ng bagong leader ang kanyang partido. Ayon kay Kishida, ay tuluyan na nitong tatalikuran ng karera sa politika upang mabigyan ng bagong simula ang kanyang mga kababayan.
今回の事案が発生した当初から思い定め心に帰してきたところであり、当面の外交日程に一区切りがついたこの時点で私が身を引くことでけじめをつけ総裁選に向かっていきたいと考えています。
Bumaba sa 15.5% ang trust rating ni Kishida matapos harapin ang pagtaas ng cost of living, pagbaba ng yen at ang lumalabas na corruption scandal ng kanyang partido. Nagkukumahog ngayon ang namumunong partido ng Japan na linisin ang kanilang himahe matapos bumaba sa pwesto ang 4 na miyembro ng gabinete nito dahil sa isang fundraising scandal na isinagawa nila noong Disyembre ng nakaraang taon. Bukod rito ay may 5 senior vice minister at isang parliamentary vice minister mula sa kanilang partido na nagbitiw na sa pwesto panahon pa lang ni dating PM Shinzo Abe. Iniimbestigahan ngayon ng korte ang mga miyembro ng kanyang partido na nakatanggap umano ng pera magmula sa fundraiser na hindi naman iniulat ng kanyang partido.
所属議員が起こした重大な事態について組織の長として責任を取ることにいささかの躊躇もありません。
Sinabi ng Russia na kanilang nawasak ang 117 drones at 4 na tactical missiles na inilunsad ng Ukraine nitong Miyerkules. Ang mga pag-ataking ito ay nakatuon sa Kursk at iba pang bahagi ng bansa. Gayunpaman, ayon sa Kyiv, ito pa lamang ang simula kasabay ng kanilang paglusob sa loob ng teritoryo ng Russia.
Угруповання Збройних сил України продовжують ведення операції на території Курської області. За сьогоднішню добу наші війська просунулись на окремих напрямках від 1 до 3 кілометрів. Взято контроль над 40 квадратними кілометрами території. І на сьогодні 74 пункти знаходяться під нашим контролем. Бої ведуться по всій лінії фронту. Ситуація, незважаючи на високу інтенсивність бойових дій, знаходиться під контролем, продовжуємо ведення операції.
Ipinahayag ng Ukraine na ang kanilang cross-border assault ay nagbigay sa kanila ng kontrol sa 74 na mga bayan sa Kursk at patuloy pa silang sumusulong. Sinabi ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na kanilang tinipo ng mga bihag ng mga taga-Russia na maaaring ipalit sa mga nahuling sundalo ng Ukraine.
По-перше, дякую нашим хлопцям, дівчатам, передайте від мене особисте привітання, дякую їм за службу таку героїчну. По-друге, дякую, що поповнюєте наш фонд обміну, це важливо, зможемо обміняти на наших хлопців, на наших військових. І я хотів вас також попросити не забувати і продовжувати тренування і розробку наступних важливих ключових кроків.
Samantala, nangako si Russian President Vladimir Putin na gaganti sila sa Ukraine ng isang karapat-dapat na pagtugon. Binigyang diin ng Estados Unidos na wala itong kinalaman sa isinagawang paglusob ng Ukraine sa Kursk, Russia. Alamin po natin ang karagdagang detalye mula kay Bernhard Gonzaga.
Noong nakaraang linggo, ginulat ng Ukraine ang Moscow sa paglusob ng libo-libong sundalo nito sa kanlurang rehiyon ng Russia. Ayon sa Kyiv, nakuha nito ang 1,000 square kilometers ng lupa ng Kursk, pinakamalaki anyang pananakop mula noong 2022. Nang tanungin kung may kinalaman ba ang Estados Unidos sa ginawang panlulusob na ito ng Ukraine sa Russia, sinabi ni State Department Vedant Patel na hindi sangkot ang US sa anumang aspeto ng pagpaplano ni paghahanda kaugnay nito.
The top today. Ukraine is defending itself from that aggression. This has been Kremlin's war of aggression from the start against Ukraine, pure and simple. And I just want to reiterate what some others across the administration have said, which is that we're not engaged in any aspect or planning or preparation for this operation. I will let the Ukrainian military speak to their own operations, but our role and what we are focused on is supporting Ukraine be able to defend itself.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni Ukrainian Presidential Advisor Mikhailo Podolyak na kailangang mapilitang bumahagi ng Russia sa isang peace summit. At ang isa sa paraan upang mapilit ito ay ang ginawa ng cross-border na paglusob ng Ukraine sa Kursk region ng Russia. Bernhard Gonzaga para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Dineklara ng Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention o Africa CDC na isang public health emergency na po ang monkeypox or Mpox.
I declare with a heavy heart, but with an unyielding commitment to our people, to our African citizens, we declare Mpox as public health emergency of continental security in Africa.
Ayon kay Kaseya, nangangailangan ang kontinente ng Afrika ng higit 10 milyong doses ng bakuna para sa Mpox. Sa kasalukuyan, ang Afrika ay mayroon lamang 200,000 na bakuna. Nangako rin ang Africa CDC na makikipagtulungan ito para madaragdagan ang supply ng kanilang mga bakuna. Ang monkeypox ay isang nakakahawang sakit na nakukuha sa pamamagitan ng close contact. Nagdudulot ito ng flu-like symptoms at masasakit na rashes. Endemic ang sakit na Mpox sa Africa sa ilang dekada matapos maitala ang unang impeksyon sa tao sa Democratic Republic of Congo noong taong 1970.
Sa kaugnay na balita, maaaring maantala ng ilang buwan ang rollout ng mga bakuna para sa Mpox na dapat sana'y makakatulong sa pagpigil ng lumalalang paglaganap ng monkeypox sa Congo at mga kalapit na bansa sa Africa. Ito ay dahil sa desisyon ng World Health Organization o WHO na kung idedeklara na bang ang Mpox outbreak sa Africa bilang isang pampublikong emergency. Dahil dito, humigit kumulang 65,000 doses lamang ang posibleng magamit para sa Congo sa maikling panahon. Samantalang mayroong higit sa 15,000 pinaghihinalaang kaso ng monkeypox sa bansa ngayong taon. 461 tao, karamihan ay mga bata, ang idineklara ng patay dahil sa sakit. Nagpulong ang United Nations Security Council sa naganap na pag-atake ng Israel sa Al-Tabin shelter sa Gaza City.
As the leaders of Egypt, Qatar, and the United States emphasized in their joint statement on 8 August, and I quote, "There is no further time to waste, nor excuses from any party for further delay," end quote. Their call for immediate relief to the people of Gaza and the hostages and their families must be heeded. I urge all parties to prioritize the protection of civilians and promptly conclude this deal as endorsed by the Security Council in Resolution 2735. The United Nations is committed to supporting all efforts towards this goal and remains in close contact with the relevant parties.
Ang nasabing pag-atake noong August 10 ay kinasawi ng nasa 100 Palestino. Karamihan sa mga ito ay mga sumilong lamang sa paaralan matapos na mawalan sila ng mga tahanan dahil sa kaguluhan sa kanilang rehiyon. Layo ng pagpupulong na talakayin ng anumang maaaring magawa ng mga bansa na tumatayong mediators na kinabibilangan ng US, Egypt at Qatar para lalong isulong ang ceasefire. Una nang kinundina ng UN ang ginawang pag-atake na ito ng Israel sa mga UN-chartered schools na ginagawang pansamantalang silungan ng mga nawalan ng mga tahanan ng mga Palestino.
The health situation in Gaza remains critical and the healthcare system is barely functional, providing brave but limited support for the injured and the sick, for the women in childbirth, and against rapidly spreading disease. Thousands of patients in critical conditions are on waiting lists for medical evacuations.
Nagkasagutan rin ang Israel at South Africa ukol sa meeting matapos tawagin ng representante ng jihadist propaganda ang dahilan ng pagpupulong ng UN Security Council bago siya mag-walkout sa nasabing pagpupulong.
But let me be clear, Jerusalem will never fall again. Jerusalem, United Jerusalem, will never fall again. No matter how many times our enemies attempt to destroy us, no matter how many times the UN slanders us and distorts reality, we will stay in our homeland and we will prevail. The terrorist organization that this guy represents here and tyrannical regimes should be condemned, not protected, and that Israel should be praised. We are today the vanguard of civilization. We are the vanguard of civilization.
Inaprubahan ng Estados Unidos ang pagbebenta ng armas katulad ng fighter jets at gamit pang militar na nagkakahalaga ng $20 bilyong. Sa kabila nito ay sinabi ng Pentagon na sa susunod na taon pa magsisimula ang paghatid nito sa armas ng Israel. Ayon sa mga ulat ay inaprubahan ni US State Secretary Antony Blinken ang nasabing pagbenta ng F-15 fighter jets at karagdagang kagamitan kasama na rin ang tank cartridges, explosive mortar cartridges at sasakyang pangmilitar. Ang Boeing fighter jets ay inaasahang matatapos sa 2029 at ang ibang kagamitan ay sa 2026 pa inaasahang maihahatid sa Tel Aviv. Pinasalamatan naman ni Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant kung saan sinabi niyang tinutulungan daw ng Estados Unidos magkaroon ng competitive advantage ang kanilang kaalyado sa rehiyon. Nakapagpadala na ang Estados Unidos ng mahigit 10,000 heavy-yield bombs at ilang libong Hellfire missiles sa Israel magmula nung sumabog ang giyera nila sa Gaza noong Oktubre ng nakaraang taon.
Tinanggihan ng Iran ang mga panawagan mula sa United Kingdom at ilang Western countries na tigilan na ang pag-atake sa Israel. Sinabi ni Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian ang hakbang ay bilang pagganti sa ginawang pagpatay kay Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh sa Tehran. Ayon sa presidente, mararapat na gumanti ang Iran para tuluyang matigil ang krimen. Anya, karapatan umano ng Iran na maghiganti laban sa planned assassinations ng Israel sa kanilang rehiyon. Bagamat hindi inaako ng Israel ang insidente, nananatili silang on high alert sa posibleng pagsalakay ng kanilang mga karibal. Una nang nagbabala rin ang Estados Unidos sa malaking pag-atake na gagawin na ngayon ng Iran. Maging ang Iran-backed Hezbollah movement sa Lebanon ay nagbanta na posibleng makiisa ang kanilang grupo sa plano ng Hamas.
Susunod, isa patay, 6 na sugatan sa isang magic carpet ride sa China.
2 bata tumilapon mula sa isang sasakyan sa Texas.
At Google naglabas ng lineup ng bagong mga models ng Pixel smartphones. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ilalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
This portion is brought to you by Supreme Pure Organic Barley by Levex. First alkaline-based pure organic barley. Every sip is full of beneficial nutrients. Wag basta barley. Dapat alkaline-based Supreme Pure Organic Barley.
Patuloy pa rin ang pagtaas ng bilang ng mga taong nasasawi sa Gaza dahil sa walang tigil na labanan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. Nariyan pa ang nakaambang pag-atake ng Iran sa Israel na nag-ugat sa pagkamatay ng pinuno ng Hamas na si Ismail Haniyeh. Pag-atake na maaaring maging hudyat ng mas malalang digmaan sa Middle East kasama na ang suporta ng mga kaalyado nitong mga bansa. Kasunod nito ay ang matinding panawagan para sa ceasefire deal na matagal nang isinusulong para sa tigil putukan. Sa dami ng mga nangyayari sa Middle East ay ating talakayin ngayon ang mga kaganapan sa tila mailap na kapayapaan at mas lumalalang sitwasyon ng digmaan sa lugar. Matapos ang pagkasawi ng pinuno ng Hamas na si Haniyeh, ay isang matinding pag-atake naman ng Israel ang gumimbal sa isang paaralan sa Gaza. Ayon sa Territory Civil Defense Service ay aabot sa higit kumulang 100 ang nasawi sa pag-atake sa paaralan habang nasa 50 naman ang sugatan. Dagdag pa nila ay isa lamang ito sa sunod-sunod na pambobomba na ginagawa ng Israel sa mga paaralang nasa Gaza. Una nang inatake ang Dalala al-Maghrabi School sa Shudaia noong August 1 kung saan 15 ang patay at 29 ang sugatan. Sinundan ito ng isa pa noong August 3 sa Hama al-Huda School na nakapagtala naman ng may 17 pagkamatay at 60 sugatan. Bukod rito ay nasa 30 naman ang nasawi sa Nasir at Hassan Salame School noong August 4 kasama ang nasa 19 na sugatan. Noong August 8 ay inatake rin nila ang Abdul Fattah Mahmuda at Az-Zara School kung saan 17 ang nasawi, 16 naman ang nawawala at nasa 100 ang sugatan. Samantala higit sa 100 naman ang namatay at 12 ang sugatan sa naging pag-atake sa Al-Tabin School noong August 10. Karamihan sa mga biktima ng mga pambobomba sa mga karatig na mga paaralan sa Gaza ay mga kababaihan at mga bata.
You ever think, what if you were born in Gaza? What if the prisoner raped was your son? What if the children starving to death were your own? What if that woman killed was your daughter or your wife? What if the disease was riddling the body of your mother, your grandmother? What if that family that was blown into pieces or burned to death was yours? Killed in cold blood after running in desperation and hunger for months to survive.
Ayon sa ulat ng United Nations noong July 6, mula sa 564 na mga paaralan sa Gaza ay nasa 477 na ang tuluyang nawasak ng mga pag-atake. Giit nila ay lumalabag ang Israel sa international law sa hindi nito pagbibigay ng ligtas na tirahan para sa mga biktima ng kaliwat ng digmaan sa Gaza.
It bears repeating, there's no protection of civilians in Gaza. Alongside the relentless mass displacement within Gaza, many thousands of Palestinians have left and many more are trying to. As this conflict persists and lives are threatened daily, civilians must be allowed to seek protection. Those displaced must also be guaranteed the right to voluntarily return. What we're seeing in Gaza is the result of a war waged with pitiful, if any, regard for the requirements of international law. I share the Secretary General's and others' deep concern about violations of international humanitarian law being committed throughout this conflict.
Samantala, inanunsyo ng Hamas ang bagong political chief ng grupo na si Yahya Sinwar matapos ang naging pagkasawi ni Haniya. Kinikilala si Sinwar bilang most wanted man ng Israel at ultimate mastermind ng Operation Al-Aqsa Flood na ngayon ay binabantayan ng iba't ibang mga bansa. Taong 1980 nang tumulong sa pagbuo ng internal security apparatus ng Hamas si Sinwar kung saan ay binansagan siyang Butcher of Khan Yunis. Nakalabas naman siya noong 2011 mula sa pagkakakulong sa Israel bilang bahagi ng palitan ng mga bilanggo at nagpasya ng manirahan sa Gaza. Kasunod nito ay kinilala siyang terorista ng United States noong 2015. Kasabay nito ay nagsilbi naman siya mula 2013 hanggang 2017 bilang chairman ng Hamas Political Bureau. Bilang na lamang ngayon ang mga natitirang senior officials ng Hamas na gaya ni Sinwar. Ito ay matapos mamatay ng mga pinuno na gaya ni Haniya Salah Arouri noong Enero at top military commander na si Mohammed Diaf noong Hulyo. Ayon sa head of the Palestine program na si Khalid El-Gindi, ay maaaring mas maging marahas ang mga susunod na hakbang ng Hamas mula sa bagong pinuno ng grupo. Anya ay pahirapan ang magiging proseso ngayon ng ceasefire deal sa Gaza na siyang dapat na paghandaan ng Israel. Pangamba ngayon ang buong mundo ang matinding digmaan sa Middle East sa kabila ng mas malakas na panawagan para sa ceasefire deal. Hiling ng mga pinuno mula sa bansang France, Germany at Britain na maipasa na ito at nang maihinto na ang pagkasawi ng mga inosenteng sibilyan.
He welcomes the mediation efforts of the United States, Egypt and Qatar leaders and urges both sides to rejoin negotiations and conclude the ceasefire and hostages release deal. The Secretary General reiterates his urgent appeal for an immediate ceasefire and the unconditional release of all hostages. He also again underscores the need to ensure the protection of civilians and for unimpeded and safe humanitarian access into and across Gaza.
Sa inilabas na magkasamang pahayag ng mga bansa ay ninanais nila na maisara na ang ginagawang aksyon ng US, Qatar at Egypt. Layunin nito na tapusin ang nasa 10 buwan na digmaan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas na siyang magiging daan para mapigilan ang nakaplanong pag-atake ng Iran. Inabot naman ang ilang buwan ang proseso na ginagawa para sa ceasefire deal kung saan ay parehong pinakinggan ang mga kondisyon na inilatag ng dalawang panig. Naglalaman ito ng 3-phase plan at kondisyon na palalayain ang mga bihag na hawak ng Hamas mula sa ginawa nilang pag-atake noong Oktubre 7. Sa kabila nito ay nananatili pa rin sa pag-atake ang Israel sa Gaza na nilalabanan naman ng Hamas at Hezbollah. Batay sa inilabas na pahayag ni French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz at British Prime Minister Keir Starmer ay kinausap na nilang Iran at ang mga kaalyado nito na huwag nang ituloy ang pag-atake. Giit nila ay magreresulta lamang ito sa mas malala at madugong digmaan sa Middle East na maaaring maging dahilan para hindi matuloy ang ceasefire. Hinihikayat na rin ng US ang Turkiye at mga kasama nitong bansa na kausapin ng Iran na huwag nang ituloy ang binabalak na pagganti. Ayon sa ambassador ng Turkiye na si Jeff Flake ay hindi ito maiiwasan dahil sa nangyaring pagpaslang sa kanilang pinuno. Gayunpaman ay susubukan nito na hindi mauwi sa matinding digmaan ang gagawin ng Iran.
We would hope that at that OIC meeting, the same thing happens that we have been trying to effectuate throughout the last week, which is that all parties that have a relationship with Iran impress upon Iran, the same way that we've been impressing upon the government of Israel, that they shouldn't take any steps to escalate the conflict. And so obviously there are a number of countries with whom we speak who are attending that meeting, who are members of the OIC. We have heard from those countries really a broad consensus in every conversation that we have had that they share our opinion that escalation would only exacerbate the problems facing the region, and so certainly we would hope that countries at that meeting would impress that upon Iran.
Babala ngayon ng US na naghahanda na sila sa posibleng pag-atake ng Iran ngayong linggo sa Israel. Matatandaan na nangako ito na susuportahan ng Israel mula sa bantang pag-atake ng Iran na nag-ugat sa pagkakapaslang ni Haniya. Kasunod nito ay nagpadala sila ng missile submarine bilang bahagi ng paghahanda sa lumalalang tensyon sa Middle East. Sinabi naman ng US Defense Secretary na si Lloyd Austin na kasama sa kanilang ibibigay ang aircraft carrier. Bukod rito ay nagkita at nagpulong naman ang Pangulo ng Russia na si Vladimir Putin at ang Pangulo ng Palestinian na si Mahmoud Abbas sa Moscow. Pinag-usapan ng dalawang sitwasyon na kinakaharap sa Middle East kung saan ay nabanggit ang walang tigil na pag-atake sa Gaza na siyang malinaw na dahilan para sa mas malalang digmaan.
روسيا الاتحادية بلا أدنى شك وهناك كانت واضحة كل الوضوح وفيها توصيات كاملة.
Ayon sa Pangulo ng Iran na si Masoud Pezeshkian ay hindi na maiiwasan ang paglala ng tensyon sa Gaza lalo na at pinaslang ng Israel ang pinuno nito. Anya ay mukhang malabong maipasa ngayon ang usapin sa ceasefire deal dahil sa ginawa ng Israel na siyang dapat paghandaan din ng Estados Unidos.
We have raised our concerns with Israel, and while they indicated they were targeting senior officials from Hamas and Palestinian Jihad, they have an obligation to do everything possible under international humanitarian law to protect civilians. We mourn every civilian lost in this horrific incident and in this conflict.
Sa kasalukuyan, buo na ang desisyon at hindi na mapipigilan ng Iran na ituloy ang pag-atake na siya namang pinaghahandaan ng Israel. Bagamat puspusan ang panawagan ng iba't ibang bansa sa Iran na huwag ituloy ang pag-atake ay naninindigan ito na hindi na magbabago ang pasya. Hinihikayat rin ni UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer si Pezeshkian na itigil ang plano ngunit bigo itong mapapayag ang Pangulo. Ang inaasam na kapayapaan at tigil putukan sa Gaza ay hindi pa maisak sa katuparan dahil sa tumitinding tensyon. Tila ba ayaw magpatalo ng mga lider ng bansa sa Middle East habang ang mga kaalyado nitong mga bansa ay abala sa ibang layunin at usapin. Lahat ay gustong manalo sa labanan ng teritoryo habang ang nakataya naman ay buhay ng mga inosenteng tao. Mga buhay na hindi na maibabalik mula sa bawat pag-atake na ang tanging iniiwan ay alaala at paalala na sa kabila ng digmaan, ang buhay ng bawat mamamayan ay dapat unang pahalagahan.
Sa iba pang mga balita, naglipa na ngayon sa mga kalsada ng Florida, Georgia, North at South Carolina ang mga buwaya. Ito ay dahil sa umapaw ang mga ilog sa mga nasabing lugar na nagdulot naman ng matitinding pagbaha bunsod na rin ng pananalasa ng bagyong Derby. May mga buhaya sightings na rin sa mga swimming pools, bakuran at maging sa parking lots. Ayon sa mga wildlife experts, hindi ugali ng mga buhaya na umalis sa kanilang natural habitat na fresh waters. Subalit dahil sa labis na pagbaha, na-displace po ang mga buhaya mula sa kanilang mga tirahan. Dati ay mahigit 200 buhaya ang na-displace dahil naman sa bagyong Beryl at Alberto.
Isang turista at 60 katao ang sugatan matapos sumakay sa sikat na Magic Carpet Ride sa China. Ang insidente ay naganap pagkatapos ng Magic Carpet Ride kung saan ang mga nakasakay na turista ay dinadala sa isang magandang tanawin ng bundok at Detian Waterfall. Batay sa investigasyon, nagkaroon ng isang equipment failure. Nagsigawan ang mga nakasakay at nagkaroon pa ng stampede. Hindi na nagbigay pa ng ibang detalye ang management ng Magic Carpet Ride.
Tumilapon ang 2 bata at 1 matanda mula sa isang sasakyan sa nangyaring vehicular collision sa isang highway sa Texas. Kinumpirma ni Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez ang 2-car crash sa kahabaan ng Interstate 10 East Freeway sa Freeport. Dagdag ng hepe, gumulong ang isang sasakyan ng ilang beses na naging sanhi ng pagtilapon ng 3 okupante ng sasakyan. Naisugod sa pagamutan ang 3 para sa atensyong medikal. Tinukoy naman ng mga otoridad na nakaligtas ang driver ng isang sasakyan na sangkot rin sa insidente. Umani na maraming reaksyon ang video dahil sa nakasisindak na trahedyang naranasan ng 2 bata. 5 taon matapos nakawin ang mga alahas sa isang museum heist sa East Germany, muling makikita ng publiko ang ilan sa mga na-recover na mga alahas. May lasimbulan po para sa balita.
Noong Nobyembre ng taong 2019, ninakaw ang mga piraso ng alahas na may 4,300 na mga diamante at sinasabing nagkakahalaga ng 113 million euros or $124 million mula sa Green Vault Museum sa Dresden, Saxony ng Eastern Germany. Sa Green Vault Museum nananahan ang isa sa pinakamahalagang art collection ng Europa. Ayon sa pulisya, karamihan sa mga alahas na ninakaw mula sa museo, 4 na taon na ang nakalipas ay na-recover na. Ngunit kasama sa mga pirasong nawawala pa rin ay isang epaulet o dekorasyon sa balikat kung saan nakahulma ang mamahaling bato na kilala bilang Dresden White Diamond. Simula sa linggong ito, ibabalik ang mga alahas sa dati nitong mga pwesto at kondisyon nang ma-recover ang mga ito noong 2022. Halos 2 taon itong nasa kamay ng mga otoridad bilang ebidensya sa kaso. Ayon kay Minister-President of Saxony, Michael Kretzmer, ang desisyong ito ng korte na ibalik sa museo ang mga alahas ay para sa susunod na henerasyon.
Die Justiz hat auch vor dem Hintergrund geurteilt, dass es wichtig ist für die nächsten Generationen, für die kleinen Menschen, die hier gerade gestanden haben, diese Kunstschätze zu sichern. Und natürlich ist es gut, dass 5 Täter jetzt zu langen Haftstrafen verurteilt worden sind. Das ist Genugtuung. Es ist Genugtuung, dass auch der Blick auf diese Tat sich verändert hat, von dem spektakulären Kunstraub eben zu einer banalen kriminellen Handlung von Tätern, die so viele Fehler gemacht haben, vieles nicht gewusst haben. Das ist auch Genugtuung. Wichtig ist, dass wir heute hier wieder zusammen sind, dass wir diese Kunst, dieses Erbe Sachsens hier sehen können und für die Öffentlichkeit zugänglich machen können.
5 magkakapamilya ang nasentensyahan ng ilang taong pagkakabilanggo noong 2023 dahil sa kanilang partisipasyon sa pagnanakaw. Ang ninakaw na Dresden Collection ay binuo noong ika-18 siglo ni Augustus the Strong, Elector of Saxony. Pagkatapos, napunta ito sa hari ng Poland na nakaipon pa ng mas maraming alahas para sa koleksyon. Ang mga alahas na ito ay nakaligtas sa Allied bombing raids noong World War II. Kinuha ito ng Soviet Union, ngunit ibinalik sa Dresden na kabisera ng Saxony noong 1958. Emi Capilita Roja para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nitong Martes, inilabas ng Google ang line-up ng panibago nitong Pixel smartphone model na gumagamit ng Artificial Intelligence or AI. Itinanghal ng Google ang Pixel 9 Pro Fold smartphone bilang pambato nito sa AI race ng mga tech giants. Higit pa po rito, naglabas din ang kumpanya ng panibagong smartwatch at maging wireless earbuds. Ilan sa mga features ng Pixel smartphone ng Google ay ang implementasyon ng Gemini, ang chatbot ng kumpanya na maging overlay mula sa isa pang application. Saad din ng kumpanya, naka-integrate na ang mga accessories nito sa Gemini chatbot. Matagal na ibinibida ng Google ang kanilang Gemini chatbot paraan na makakuha ito ng feedback para mas pahusayin pa ang Gemini. Napansin kasi ng mga analysts na tinatapatahan ng Google ang karibal nito, walang iba kundi ang Apple. Ayon naman sa Apple, maglalabas daw ito ng panibagong model ng iPhone sa susunod na buwan.
Inalok si Real Madrid star Vinicius Jr. ng higit $1 bilyong para maglaro sa Saudi Arabia. Ayon sa mga sports reporter ay lumapit ang isang opisyales ng Saudi para alukin ang 24-year-old Brazilian football player ng 5-year €200 million o higit kumulang $218 million per season contract, hindi pa kasama ang bonus para lang makilahok sa Saudi Pro League o SPL. Hiwalay pa rito ang isang 10-year contract para maging ambassador ng 2034 World Cup. Sa ngayon ay wala pang sinasabi ang manlalaro ukol sa kanyang kinabukasan sa football. Ngunit ayon sa Real Madrid naman ay pinag-uusapan nila ang posibilidad ng kanyang pag-alis. Kung sakaling pumayag si Vinicius sa kontrata ay nakatakda itong makalaban sina CR7 Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar at Karim Benzema. Noong nakaraang taon, inalok ng SPL ang kanyang teammate na si Kylian Mbappe ng $775 million salary deal para pumirma sa Al Hilal, ngunit tinanggihan naman ito ng Frenchman. Ang apat na unang team ng SPL, ang Al Ahly, Al Ittihad, Al Hilal at Al Nasser ay pinupundaran ang ng Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, ang Sovereign Wealth Fund ng nasabing bansa.
Batay sa Republic Act 10699 o National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act, ang mga Pilipinong nakakuha ng gintong medalya sa Olympic Games ay mayroong 10 milyong pisong insentibo mula sa gobyerno. Subalit, dinagdagan pa ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ng 20 million pesos ang incentives ni Golden Boy Carlos Yulo dahil sa double gold nito sa 2024 Paris Olympics. Dahil dito, 40 million pesos ang kabuoang makukuha ni Yulo, samantalang tig 4 million pesos naman sina Ida Villegas at Nesty Petesio na parehong nakapag-uwi ng bronze medals. Habang ang mga nalalabing non-medalists ay tatanggap rin ng tig 2 million pesos.
Habang nanonood ako na news, sabi ko, mayaman na ito si Kaloy. O dyan, daming perang binibigay, may teka ko, ano ito? Sabi ko, isipin kayo natin, magbigay tayo ng ganito. Meron nang nagbigay, dalawa pa. Sabi ko, sige, paano natin gagawin to? So, I said, I thought that what we should do is really recognize all the athletes. Number one, all the athletes. I think any athlete, so lahat naman ng atleta natin, bigyan na natin basta nag-Olympian. Bigyan natin tig 1 milyon, di ba?
Nangako rin si Marcos sa mga atleta na higit pang pauunlarin ng Philippine sports matapos ang matagumpay na kampanya ng Pilipinas sa 2024 Olympics sa Paris, France. Kaugnay nito, iginawad kay Yulo ang Congressional Medal of Excellence ng Kamara. Ito ang pinakamataas na award na ibinigay sa Filipino achievers sa larangan ng sports, business, medicine, science, arts, and culture. Binigyan din ng Congressional Medal of Distinction sina Petesio at Villegas na nanalo ng bronze medal sa boxing competition. Nag-uwi rin si Yulo ng 6 million pesos, samantalang tig 1 million pesos naman ang ibinigay ng Kamara kina Petesio at Villegas at 500,000 cash incentives sa iba pang atleta.
Ayon kay rapper, producer at hip-hop icon Dr. Dre ay interesado siya na makilahok sa 2028 Olympics. Hindi lang bilang tagapagtanghal, ngunit bilang isang atleta rin. Ayon kay Dre na ang formal na pangalan ni Andre Young ay malaki ang interes nito sa susunod na Olympics na gaganapin sa kanyang hometown na Los Angeles. Sa isang online interview ay sinabi ni Dre na hinahangaan raw nito ang Olympic experience ng matalik niyang kaibigan na si Snoop Dogg dahil dito ay naniniwala siyang kaya niya itong sabayan. Sabi ng chronic artist ay nagsimula siya sa archery noong siya ay nasa junior high pa lamang at kamakailan lang ay bumabalik na ito sa range para mag-ensayo. Noong tanungin kung ano ang posibilidad na makapasok ito sa qualifiers, ang sabi lamang niya, I heard qualifying for the Olympics is 77 feet and I practice at 90. Nakipagtambalan si actress Selena Gomez sa charity arm ng Google para tumulong na maresolba ang umiiral na mental health crisis sa mga kabataan sa United States. Nitong Lunes, pinondohan ng Google.org ang lahat ng mental health-related listings sa Donors Choose, isang online charity na tumutulong na magkaloob ng kahilingan ng mga public school teachers. Inihayag ng Google.org na nagkaloob sila ng $10 million worth ng regalo sa tulong ni Selena Gomez. Una nang nagpahayag ang Google.org na susuportahan nito ang mga non-profit organizations na tumutulong para sa mental health at online safety ng mga bata. Kabilang rito ang pagkakaloob ng Google.org ng $500 worth ng vouchers para sa mga eligible Donors Choose campaign sa hinaharap. Nangako rin ang Google.org na itataas pa nito ang pondong inilaan hanggang sa $25 million. Sinabi ni Google.org Director for America Justin Steele na dumoble ang bilang ng searches ng teen mental health sa loob lamang ng 4 na taon. Samantala, sa bahagi naman ni Gomez, makatatanggap naman ng $1.25 million na donasyon ang Rare Impact Fund. Ang Rare Impact Fund ay sinimula ni Gomez bilang commitment niya na ma-address ang mental health at isulong ang self-acceptance. Taong 2018 nang na-diagnose si Gomez ng bipolar disorder. Dito niya napagpasyahan at tumulong din sa mga nangangailangan ng lingap sa mental health.
Nakakatuwa naman na yung mga celebrities natin ay gumagamit ang kanilang platform to do good. Di ba best friend niya si Taylor Swift, di ba? Pareho sila mag-besties. Na ito naman si Taylor Swift, education naman yung philanthropy. So, good job ka dyan, Selena.
Oo, at saka alam mo, tama lang naman, di ba, lagi nga nating sinasabi, yung mga nasa posisyon para magkaroon ng boses, di ba, para makapagkaloob ng tulong, o kaya mag-encourage ng awareness sa mga taong hindi pa nakakaalam. In the case of Selena Gomez, yung kanyang bipolar disorder, di ba, mahalaga na na-address yung mga ganyang issue kasi pag hinayaan mo lang, pwede siyang lumala, di ba? You have to medicate for it, Otherwise, medyo talagang maaapektuhan yung pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay mo.
Ayan.
So, diba?
Sana talaga maging magtagumpay ang kanilang project. At tandaan po, mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, narito kami ni Nina upang maghatid ng balita sa amang dako na mundo. Muli, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
At ako naman si Nina Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Net25 World News. Take it away, Alma!
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Net25 World News. On tonight's headlines.
Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio has announced that he will not run in next month's leadership election for the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. And this decision paves the way for Japan to have a new prime minister soon. Thailand's Constitutional Court today dismissed Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin for appointing to his cabinet a former lawyer who served jail time, raising the specter of more political upheaval and a reset of the governing alliance. The real estate tycoon becomes the fourth Thai premier in 16 years to be removed by verdicts by the same court after it ruled he violated the Constitution by appointing a minister who did not meet ethical standards. Biden administration is set to send Saudi Arabia over $750 million worth of bombs in the coming months, according to officials from both countries. And this move is expected to ease tensions between Washington and Riyadh. A ceasefire deal in Gaza, hoped to emerge from talks this week, is seen as the only way to prevent Iran from directly retaliating against Israel following the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last month. Iran has vowed a severe response to his killing, which it blames on Israel. Matthew Dominic, a flight engineer on the International Space Station, shared a stunning time-lapse showing the moon setting amid a spectacular display of red and green auroras. The news starts now.
First in our news, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida today said he will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, in September, marking the end of a three-year term marred by political scandals. Kishida's announcement comes amid revelations about the party's ties to the controversial Unification Church and, more recently, unrecorded political donations made at LDP fundraising parties.
自民党が変わることを示す最も分かりやすい最初の一歩は私が身を引くことであります。私は来たる総裁選には出馬いたしません。総裁選を通じて選ばれた新たなリーダーを一兵卒として支えていくことに徹してまいります。所属議員が起こした重大な事態について、組織の長として責任を取ることにいささかの躊躇もありません。
His exit triggers a contest to replace him as president of the party and, by extension, become the leader of the world's fourth biggest economy. Kishida's public support has been sliding due to revelations about the LDP's ties to the controversial Unification Church and unrecorded political donations made at party events. However, the Prime Minister has also faced public discontent over stagnant wages as Japan's cost of living soars. The new LDP leader will face challenges including uniting the ruling party, managing inflation, and geopolitical tensions with China and the U.S. Kishida is Japan's 8th longest-serving post-war leader and oversaw massive stimulus spending during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, he's stuck with the hawkish security policies of his predecessor Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated in 2022. Abe had unveiled Japan's biggest military buildup since World War II, with a commitment to double defense spending aimed at deterring neighboring China from pursuing its territorial ambitions in East Asia through military force. The successor that the LDP chooses will have to unite a fractious and ruling group and tackle likely further increase in living costs, escalating geopolitical tensions with China, and the potential return of Donald Trump as U.S. president next year. Thailand's Constitutional Court has ousted Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin over a constitutional violation concerning a cabinet appointment. The ruling is likely to stir political turmoil once again, just a year after the previous regime change. Crystal Mapa reports from Bangkok, Thailand.
On Wednesday, Thailand's Constitutional Court removed Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin from office, citing a constitutional violation related to a cabinet appointment. The decision is expected to reignite political instability just a year after the last regime change. In May, 40 senators filed a petition to disqualify Srettha as Prime Minister, arguing that his April appointment of Pichit Thunban as a cabinet minister was unconstitutional. Pichit had previously served a 6-month jail sentence for bribery, which, according to the Constitution, disqualifies him from holding ministerial office. Srettha maintained that Pichit's appointment was conducted lawfully, but stated he would respect the court's final and unappealable decision.
ผมเคารพในการตัดสินใจของคำพิพากษาของทั้งศาลรัฐธรรมนูญนะครับก็ยืนยันนะครับว่าตลอดระยะเวลา ปีหนึ่งหรือเกือบปีหนึ่งที่ดำรงตำแหน่งมาก็พยายามทำทุกอย่างให้ถูกต้องนะครับมีความตั้งใจจริงในการทำงานยึดมั่นโดยในอุดมการณ์ของการทำงานด้วยความซื่อสัตย์สุจริตรับฟังความคิดเห็นของทุกๆฝ่ายแล้วก็ไม่ได้ยืนยันว่าไม่ได้เป็นทำตัวเป็นที่ขัดแย้งของทุกๆคนนะครับก็ยืนยันอีกทีครับก็เคารพการตัดสินของศาลรัฐธรรมนูญครับ
Sreta, a property tycoon, became prime minister in August last year after his Phuthay party formed a coalition government, ending nearly a decade of military rule. The court's ruling has raised concerns in the business sector about political uncertainty and the future of key policies, including a nationwide digital money handout and Thailand's electric vehicle initiatives. Following Sreta's removal, lawmakers will convene to elect a new prime minister from the candidates nominated by political parties before the last general election. The ruling Phuthay party has two other candidates, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, daughter of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, and Chaikasem Nitisiri, a former Attorney General. Reporting from Thailand, this is Crystal Mapa for Net25 World News.
Iran has warned that only successful ceasefire deal in Gaza this week will prevent it from launching direct retaliation against Israel for the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last month. Talks to negotiate a ceasefire are expected to take place in either Egypt or Qatar this Thursday, with Western countries engaged in intense diplomacy to urge Iran to de-escalate. Iranian sources have indicated that if talks stall or Israel is seen as delaying, Iran, along with allies like Hezbollah, will strike. With tensions running high, U.S. and Israeli officials warn that retaliation could come as early as this week, putting the region on the brink of a wider conflict.
We'll see what Iran does, and we'll see what happens if there's any attack. But I'm not giving up.
Two things tied together. Do you have the understanding that Iran could cease or stop doing an action if a ceasefire deal was possible?
That's my expectation, but we'll see. Thank you.
We have been stressing to allies, partners, like-mindeds, just how important it is that the parties not take steps that are going to perpetuate this conflict, that are going to lead to further instability and insecurity. No one benefits from any kind of retaliation, and so we want to not see any escalation or any attack take place in the first place.
And you expect Hamas to be there?
So we've seen the reports of what they have said as it relates to their participation. Our partners in Qatar have assured us that they will work to have Hamas represented. As I just said to Sean, it is far time for Hamas to release the remaining hostages, including the American citizens. But broadly, we fully expect these talks to move forward as they should.
The United States' overall goal remains to turn the temperature down in the region, deter and defend against any future attacks, and avoid regional conflict.
Israel has heightened its military alert levels following U.S. intelligence reports indicating that Iran may indeed launch an attack as early as this week. White House spokesperson John Kirby confirmed that Iran's top leadership had approved plans to strike Israel in retaliation for the July 31 assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. In a separate development, the U.S. announced it would resume offensive weapon sales to Saudi Arabia, ending a suspension that had been in place for over 3 years due to concerns about Saudi-led strikes in Yemen. Take a look. In response, the United States, along with France, Germany, Italy, and the UK, has cautioned Iran against attacking Israel. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called Iran's president, urging him to avoid escalating the conflict. Despite these warnings, Iran maintains that it has the right to respond to Israeli actions and defend its sovereignty. Meanwhile, Israel is closely monitoring Iran's military movements and is ready to counter any potential threats.
אנחנו לוקחים ברצינות את ההצהרות והאמירות של אויבינו, ועל כן אנחנו ערוכים במוכנות שיא בהתקפה ובהגנה, ואנחנו נפעל על פי הנחיות הדרג המדיני.
Israel's defense policy remains unchanged, with comprehensive attack plans and high preparedness in place. As tensions with Iran escalate, the U.S. has agreed to resume arms sales to Saudi Arabia. And this decision follows a 2021 embargo imposed by the Biden administration due to accusations of human rights violations by Riyadh in its conflict with the Houthi rebels in Yemen.
This initial decision is rooted in administration policy, a decision by the president, and that continues to be the case today. As you know, from the earliest days of this administration, we set out to end the Yemen war, and when we entered office, this war was escalating. As part of this policy, our administration froze the sale of certain classes of offensive weapons, while also maintaining sales of systems to the kingdom required to defend itself from attack. We also always made clear that the freeze on certain classes of weapons was conditional, and it was based on Saudi Arabia's policy towards Yemen and efforts to improve civilian harm mitigation measures. The Saudis, since that time, have met their end of the deal, and we are prepared to meet ours, which means returning these cases through regular order with appropriate congressional notification and consultation.
Although the fighting between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis ended in spring 2022, the Iran-backed Houthis have since intensified their attacks on military and commercial vessels in the Red Sea. The U.S. will now provide Saudi Arabia with precision-guided munitions, while Riyadh is also seeking a civilian nuclear agreement and protection against Iran and its proxies. The Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. will send Saudi Arabia bombs worth more than $750 million in the coming months. The U.S. hopes for Saudi support in the event that Iran proceeds with an attack on Israel.
Through this entire period, since the onset of this administration, Saudi Arabia has remained a close strategic partner of the United States, and we look forward to enhancing that partnership. We'll continue to work closely with the kingdom on preventing escalation in the Middle East, on a post-conflict plan for the Gaza Strip, as well as them continuing to play a role in finalizing a ceasefire as it relates to the ongoing conflict.
Ukraine shot down 17 out of 23 Russia-launched drones during an overnight attack, which damaged infrastructure in several regions, according to the country's Air Force and local authorities today. The Russian forces also launched 2 Kh-59-69 guided missiles to attack Ukraine, according to the Air Force. Ukraine's national grid operator, Ukrenergo, said that Russian drones had hit an energy facility overnight and caused temporary power cuts to consumers in parts of Chernihiv region. In the morning, Russian forces also attacked an energy facility in the southern region, Ukrenergo said, without offering details. Russia renewed a campaign of aerial attacks on Ukrainian energy facilities this spring. Kiev says the attacks have knocked out half of its power generating capacity, forcing it to introduce rolling blackouts. Russia said energy infrastructure is a legitimate military target and denies targeting civilians or civilian infrastructure. Meanwhile, Russia called out Western allies of Ukraine at the UN today for not condemning Kiev's incursion into the Russian region of Kursk, accusing Ukrainian forces of killing civilians and questioning the goals of the cross-border assault.
We haven't heard a word of condemnation of these actions from Western sponsors of the Kiev regime, who continue to cover up the abhorrent crimes of their puppet in the same manner as they ignored its atrocities in Donbass for more than 8 years. They go on repeating that Ukraine has the legal right to defend itself, while referencing the attacks on civilians in the Kursk region. We heard only statements of support to the Zelensky regime from United States and its allies, claiming that this military adventure fits into the Ukrainian efforts to disrupt attacks into its sovereign territory. I would be grateful for the explanation how intentionally targeting civilians serves the goals of disrupting attacks on Ukrainian territory, given the fact that there were no military objects or infrastructure in the area.
Ukraine's allies on the UN Security Council, including the US, France, and Britain, stood firm in their support for Kiev during an informal council gathering convened by Russia. They did not mention the Kursk offensive.
The Ukrainian armed forces, in violation of the Geneva Conventions, are killing and torturing Russian service personnel and civilians en masse. Fighters from the terrorist neo-Nazi Azov brigade are also participating in this. They do not hide their neo-Nazi views, and they are supported and armed by the government of the United States.
There is no question as to which country has committed numerous well-documented atrocities, including war crimes and crimes against humanity on Ukraine's sovereign territory, devastating civilian infrastructure, destroying schools, hospitals, and residential buildings.
Let me be clear. We will not recognize the aggressor as the victim. Slovenia supports and will support Ukraine in its defense against aggression.
On the issue of Ukraine, all diplomatic efforts by China have been sending the same message, namely to protect peace talks and advance a political settlement. History has long proved that all conflicts must be resolved by returning to the negotiation table, and all disputes must be resolved through political means.
Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022 and controls just under 1/5 of territory internationally recognized as Ukraine. Kiev and Moscow denied targeting civilians during the war, which has killed thousands of people and displaced millions of Ukrainians. U.S. troops are ramping up their readiness for a potential conflict on the Korean Peninsula. Now today, American soldiers conducted live-fire drills just miles from the North Korean border. The training exercise aims to improve the speed and efficiency of deploying forces from the U.S. to South Korea. And this comes as both countries prepare for major joint military drills next week. The exercises are designed to counter growing threats from North Korea, including its nuclear and cyber capabilities. Thousands of U.S. troops are already stationed in South Korea as a deterrent. Net 25 World News will be right back. Stay tuned.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapang, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Africa's top public health agency declared a public health emergency of continental security today in response to a rapidly spreading Mpox outbreak. Originating in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the disease has now infected neighboring countries. Mpox is transmitted through close contact and causes flu-like symptoms and skin lesions. While most cases are mild, the illness can be fatal. Mathay Likeness reports.
We declare Mpox as public health emergency of continental security in Africa.
That is the Director General of Africa's Center for Disease Control. His name is Jean Cassia. Before declaring the emergency on Tuesday, Cassia had been warning African countries since last week that the viral infection is spreading at an alarming rate. Mpox, it used to be known as monkeypox, causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions. While most cases are mild, this infection can kill, with young children being the most affected. Epidemiologist Salim Abdul Karim says the outbreak in Africa may be bigger than people realize.
The evidence we have on the number of cases, the number of deaths, they are just the tip of the iceberg. And the reason is that Mpox is largely a mild condition. We have limited surveillance. We have limited capacity to do the testing that's required. We have limited capacity to do the contact tracing and the reporting.
To make matters worse, it appears there's a new variant of the infection that spreads more easily through close contact, and it is deadlier. Officials worry about the virus raging through refugee camps that are home to millions of displaced people in Africa. And the infection spreads quickly among children, something that has Rosalind Lewis of the World Health Organization worried.
Children will be exposed, they will be affected. At the moment, they are few in number, but we wouldn't be surprised if that number grows. And children can also affect each other because of their close contact, playing together or sharing the same living quarters. So we do expect to see children, but we hope that those cases at least can be detected quickly and given the appropriate clinical care that they need to reduce pain and reduce the length of illness and avoid complications and long-term sequelae.
Mpox has been endemic in parts of Africa for decades. A milder version of the virus spread to more than 100 countries just 2 years ago, and that prompted the World Health Organization at that time to declare a public health emergency of international concern. The emergency lasted for about 10 months. Last week, the WHO issued a second health alert about the new deadly strain. And Africa's Casilla says we should pay attention to that warning.
This is not just an African issue. Mpox is a global threat, a menace that knows no boundaries, no race, no creed. It is a virus that exploits our vulnerabilities, preying on our weakest point. And it is in this moment of vulnerability that we must find our greatest strength and demonstrate that we are all learning from the COVID lesson and we are playing solidarity.
So far this year, Africa has reported more than 15,000 Mpox cases. 461 of those resulted in death. U.S. State Department spokesman Vedant Patel says they're keeping an eye on the African outbreak.
We are tracking closely on the spread of Mpox in Central Africa. We are pleased to see international leadership in this area. This year, I will note the United States has provided more than $17 million beyond our regularly programmed health assistance to support Mpox preparedness and response efforts in Central and Eastern Africa.
Prevention is the key to quelling the outbreak. There is a vaccine available, but there's not enough to go around. The region needs more than 10 million doses of inoculant. Donations of the vaccine are on their way from Europe, more than 200,000 doses, but that still leaves a vaccine deficit of more than 9 million. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
In Canada, a new taxi scam preying on people's generosity has caught the attention of authorities. Here's Yolanda Aspiras for the story.
Toronto Police Services warns the public about an ongoing taxi scam happening around the city. The modus involves two suspects pretending to be a taxi driver and a passenger in a busy area. The driver pretends to refuse to take the cash from the fake customer, who then targets a random victim asking if they can help pay for the taxi fare using their debit or credit card in exchange of cash. Once the victim agrees, he or she enters their PIN number for their debit or credit card in a fake taxi sales terminal, which secretly records the card's data and password. The fake driver then returns a fake but similar card back to the victim. The suspects now have the victim's physical debit card and password and are now able to make cash withdrawals and purchases. The suspects have been known to use a blue Honda Civic, a blue and black Honda Accord, and a silver Chevrolet Malibu. Toronto Police urges the public to be vigilant of any public transport that results in debit credit card transactions requiring their password and to not make any payments for an unknown person using your personal card. Yolanda Aspiras, Toronto, Ontario for Net 25 World News.
Now, Google unveiled its latest Pixel smartphones Tuesday, packing them with new artificial intelligence features. This is a big shift for the tech giant, which traditionally releases its flagship phones in the fall.
The new Gemini assistant can go beyond understanding your words to understanding your intent so you can communicate more naturally. It can synthesize large amounts of information in seconds and tackle complex tasks. It can draft messages for you, brainstorm with you, and give you ideas on how you can improve your work. With your permission, it can offer unparalleled, personalized help.
Gemini can also understand what I showed on my screen, like this video I'm watching on my Motorola Razr Plus. I'm checking out this Korean food vlog from one of my favorite YouTube creators to get ready for a trip to Seoul this fall. As I'm wrapping up the video, I'll bring up Gemini, like this. Press here and say, create a list of the foods she eats in this video. So here, Gemini is connecting with YouTube to find relevant information from the video's captions.
The new Pixel boasts deeper at AI integration, including a unique feature that lets you search within your own screenshots. Plus, Google's AI chatbot Gemini can now pop up over any app to help with tasks or generate content. The base model is the Pixel 9, starts at $799, $100 more than its predecessor.
It's noticeably thinner and lighter than our first-gen foldable. When it's folded, it has the same size display as Pixel 9 Pro and comparable thickness too. It feels and functions like a phone. Then you unfold it, and Pixel 9 Pro Fold becomes something else altogether. An 8-inch tablet with a big and bright Super Actual Flex display. It's the largest display on a phone, and it's 80% brighter than the first generation. This big screen gives you so much more surface area for entertainment, productivity, multitasking, and content creation.
The award-winning Pixel camera is the world's first AI-powered camera experience, and Google continues to be the only mobile phone maker that builds the entire camera end-to-end.
Matthew Dominic, a flight engineer on the International Space Station, shared a stunning time-lapse showing the moon setting amid a spectacular display of red and green auroras.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.